I think that Sherrone Moore has done a bad job as the Michigan head coach. I think that the teams that he has fielded are underprepared. They are inconsistent. They ride more off of emotion than stoicism and discipline and fundamental soundness and executing a great game plan and sticking to it. They're stiff. They don't adapt. This is not the Michigan that I knew with Jim Harbaugh, even before 21, 22, and 23. This is a Michigan that more resembles some of the chaotic Richard Rodriguez, Brady, I don't wear a headset because I'm an idiot, Hoke type teams. And for that reason, I think that Sherrone Moore is going to get fired by the end of 2026. He's not the coach to lead Michigan back. Michigan has wonderful investment. They have a wonderful history. They won a national title not that long ago, won the Big Ten 3 years in a row. I know it was different, and the Big Ten West, helped them. All they had to do was really get through Ohio State, and then they could win it. It's not the case anymore. But still, they are a tremendous program. They're a blue blood. They have a lot of money backing them. There's a lot of things that go their way, especially in this new era of NIL. They're actually one of the few programs, if not one of the only programs, to be recruiting at a higher level in this era than before this era began. And that includes Oregon and Texas and some of these other top programs. But unlike those teams who clearly have some bright futures, Michigan's is very murky and questionable. So let's talk about why. Dive into some more of the reasons. So I mentioned they are more emotional in their play than they are consistent or stoic. And that comes from a bad identity. In big games, Michigan turtles up and runs the ball and doesn't let Underwood unload it. They don't help him. Underwood himself has adapted to this mindset, sadly, where against Ohio State, he was more scared than he was against USC or Oklahoma. That was the most terrified I saw him in his short career at Michigan. But this channel will make you a college football expert and help you enjoy watching games and make more accurate predictions. So what are you waiting for? Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, comment your thoughts, and watch the video all the way through so that you can get the full package. And check the description and pinned comment for more ways to help yourself. It's still, 12 whole games. That's a bad identity. Michigan does not know who they are. They want to be something. And it's not like their culture is totally broken or that they're this horrible team. They're not. But they're not where they need to be. Michigan should be competing for the playoffs every year. Every blue blood team, except for Nebraska, and Nebraska will break this the minute they can consistently win 9 or 10 games a year. Every blue blood should expect to reach the playoffs every year, with a rare caveat that if they have a down cycle roster-wise on top of having a tough schedule at the same time, or if there's an unprecedented break between a key player and a staffer and they transfer and it wasn't something terrible the staffer did, like a bad decision, then it might be acceptable to miss. But that's not what's happened at Michigan. They've played poorly in big games. They, despite having a top 15, top 10 talent roster, they look lost and confused and like they want to be there, but they don't know how to stay there, if that makes sense. The inconsistency is painful to watch, and it all falls at the feet of the head coach. This is all Sherrone Moore's fault. This is Michigan. 8-5 last year was bad. That was a failure of a season. If Michigan just gets competent QB play and maybe one more offensive lineman out of the portal and a good receiver, they could go 8-4 or even 9-3. If they have better coaching on top of that, they were not going to win it all, but maybe they even reached the playoffs with the schedule they had last year. If they had Jim Harbaugh with that team last year, Harbaugh definitely sees what's up in the quarterback room, goes to the portal, or he stays and convinces McCarthy to come back, and he probably gets another receiver, or because, he was a good developer on his own, maybe things pan out differently roster-wise, and Michigan wins 9 games or 10 games. Last year was a warning, and we gave Sherrone Moore grace, and understandably so, because it's year one, and the offense was a mess, and Harbaugh did leave him in a rough spot. This year, you have a much easier schedule. You have a freshman phenom coming in who is the number 1 quarterback coming out of high school and has shown tremendous upside and has played well at times. Enough to where when he doesn't play well, it's on you. It's not because he's a bust. And the defense returned the majority of its production. They lost their most talented players, but you should reload well enough with those losses to where the returning production should at least help your defense break even. And instead, the defense regressed. And while the offense improved dramatically in efficiency, in the big games it looked more or less the same as last year. And that's very disappointing and inconsistent. This team has been up and down since day one, and they've been poorly developed. The only area where Michigan showed development throughout the year was the offensive line. And even then, it's still not one of the best O-lines in the country. It's close. Next year, it very well could be one of the best O-lines, if not maybe even the best. But that was really the only unit. And maybe a little bit of linebacker too, but D-line, inconsistent for the whole year. Secondary, inconsistent for the whole year. Receiver showed improvement throughout the year, but Andrew Marsh could also just be that good, and he just emerged throughout the season. Tight end didn't really develop. Running back, a little bit of development there for sure, but only having running back and O-line make progress and maybe linebacker and every other position is inconsistent. I know Michigan's young, but that's not good enough. The development has been poor. The coaching has been substandard. And Michigan's also been predictable. They have been. They like to run the football a lot. They love to try to switch things up in a very predictable way where they're running the ball well and you can just sense they're going to try to pass the football, and that screws up the entire drive because it's only a rare instance where they can successfully pass the ball against a good defense. And they start off games slow. Wink Martindale's awful on scripted drives, and the offense usually is bad on scripted drives too, and they use the same tactics, the same sayings, and it's not working. And I'm not saying Sherrone Moore is, well, yeah, I'm stumbling over my words because I was about to say, well, he's not the worst coach in the world or he's not the worst person, but we don't know that. And I do think he's a pretty bad coach. I have people that I trust in my circles who just straight up say, look, the guy is not to be trusted. The guy is a moron in game. I'm going to go that far, and I'm going to say that because sometimes you need the cold bucket of water dumped over you. Michigan deserves better than this, and Michigan will get better than this when they're in the coaching market in 2026. Another indictment, too, has been one thing Sherrone Moore is elite at is recruiting. Michigan has been recruiting at a very high level under him, and they've engaged in IL, they've engaged the boosters, and that's wonderful. But that only ramps up expectations, and deservingly so. And yet, they're more talented in theory than a lot of the Harbaugh teams were. Like, Harbaugh never had a quarterback like Underwood, talent-wise. And yet they're so much worse. And again, that all circles back to the CEO and the coaches. So I am going to just place my bet and place my prediction right now. Sherrone Moore is going to be fired at the end of next year. They're not making the playoffs with that schedule. Maybe if they had this year's schedule and they ran it back with next year's team, maybe they make the playoffs. But next year's schedule, you got Oklahoma at home, you have Indiana at home, Michigan State with Pat Fitzgerald, and the fact that it's a rivalry game, you can never count that out. They get Ohio State on the road, they get Oregon on the road, they got to play Iowa at home. Michigan next year can certainly go 8-4. 9-3 probably isn't getting in unless they expand the playoffs. And if they expand the playoffs to 16 and you're 9-3, That's still not good enough at Michigan. So I think Sherrone Moore is going to be fired in 2026. Thank you for watching. It's my mission on College Football with Sam to make you the most informed, knowledgeable, and entertained fan as possible. We aren't perfect, but we hit the nail on the head more often than we hit our thumb with the hammer. Make sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, comment, and if you're here, you've probably already watched the whole video. So thank you for doing those things.